My name is Margaret, and I am a 41-year-old janitor. I've been working for a housekeeping company that cleans corporate offices since I was 22, and I am a single woman about to celebrate 21 years of service. I took this job because I needed to look after my mom, who was very sick. We were a small family, just my mom, my brother, and me, and my mom was raising us on her own. When she got seriously ill, I had to leave vocational school and make time to take her to doctor appointments and help her out. I chose this job because it gave me the flexibility to take care of my mom. Now, I'm really happy I ended up here. My boss and coworkers are supportive and always treat me kindly, calling me Margaret, sweetie. I also have a few people working under me, and they are wonderful too. I used to think there couldn't be a better place to work. My mother died when I was 23, and my brother was 18, right as fall turned to winter. Losing her hit me hard, and I started taking more time off work. It was just as our company was getting ready for the busiest time of year with our year-end deep cleaning. Despite the bad timing, my colleagues told me, "It's okay, we'll wait for you to feel better." I was grateful for their kindness, but all I wanted was to be alone. I felt like following my mom. But I had a younger brother who needed me. He had lost his mom before even becoming an adult, and out of care for him, I forced myself to keep going. At that time, he was still in college. I looked after my brother, paid for his school textbooks as he moved through the grades, and drove him home when his classes ended late. When he got a job, I bought him a suit as a celebration gift. Even though I didn't earn much, I worked hard and thought of myself as standing in for our mom. After our mom died, my brother started asking me, "Why don't you quit being a janitor? And why don't you get a better job?" I think he was embarrassed by my low income and our modest social status. At that time, I wasn't mentally ready to change jobs, so hearing this from him was really tough. My coworkers were the ones who supported me kindly during this time. Later, my brother worked hard, got a job at a big corporation, a well-known company you often see in TV ads and online. His starting salary was almost double mine. He was as happy as a kid getting lots of money for New Year's. "Look at this, sis. I've surpassed you in just 2 months. Check out this payslip. Isn't it amazing?" He'd say, full of joy and bragging to others. "Sis, quit your janitor job and get a good one like mine," he'd tell me. "Hey, watch how you talk." "I love my current job," I'd reply. "Quit making excuses." "Our salaries are no match," he'd argue. I wish he had chosen his words more carefully. Although I was glad his efforts had paid off, sitting in front of our mother's portrait, I reported, "My brother, your son, is all grown up now." But my younger brother, proud of his job and his company, was heading down a troubling path. He was good at his work and always talked about the praise he got from his boss. Despite being new to the company, he was chosen for a big project. As his sister, I was proud of him. However, I noticed him making condescending comments about his colleagues, and this only got worse over time. I was doing well at getting noticed, but my brother complained about his coworkers. He thought they were slow and feared they might hurt his reputation. He said this openly, as if he looked down on everyone, not just those at his job. I knew this attitude could really harm him eventually. I tried to warn him. "I think all the new hires are at the same level, you know. You're all just starting," I told him. But my brother snapped back, "Wow, sis, you're pretty talkative for a janitor with a low-level education," and he sneered at me. Frustrated, I answered, "Well, I've been working longer than you, so I know there isn't that much difference in people's abilities." He retorted, "Really? Do you have any college graduates at your cleaning company before you lecture me? Why don't you tell them they've wasted their lives?" After belittling me, he went out for drinks. I thought the real world would teach him a lesson soon. Despite my concerns, his arrogance only grew worse. It started with him feeling superior because his salary was higher than mine, and then he began to see himself as more gifted than others, which changed how he acted. He didn't hold back his critical comments about me. At first, I thought he was just excited about his job, so I let it slide. But when gentle warnings didn't work, I seriously scolded him, yet nothing changed. I started to doubt myself as a sister, wondering if I hadn't handled things well with him. Years passed, and I kept working as a janitor. My brother did well and climbed the corporate ladder, but his dismissive attitude toward others only got worse. Then he moved in with his girlfriend, and they got married. His wife also seemed very arrogant, which stressed me out. She was much younger than him, and it felt like she was from a different generation. The first time I met her, when my brother introduced us, she asked, "So you really are a janitor?" I replied, "Yes, I find it a fulfilling and enjoyable job." She said, "Really? Isn't it dirty?" I couldn't believe it when she said, "It must smell bad." My brother joined in and said, "Right, it's unimaginable, isn't it? It's unsanitary, and she's not attractive. She doesn't have any money either, but what can I do? I'm related to her. Sorry about that." I was shocked to hear this and don't remember much of what happened afterwards. After she left, I yelled at my brother, "You were out of line. What do you mean? I am related to her, so it can't be helped? And what's up with her too? Don't you dare judge people by their jobs or income." My brother, surprised by my sudden outburst, stammered but managed to snap back. "Shut up. You're a vocational school dropout, and I'm a college graduate, so is she. We can't help but look down on you. You earn less and have a low-level job, so you're the one leading a loser life." With that, he stormed out of the house. I cried out of sadness and frustration. I had dropped out of vocational school because of our mother's illness, and my brother knew that. His words hurt me deeply. Yes, my income is modest, but I had still managed to pay for his education. I did my best to take over our late mother's role. I must have made a mistake in how I dealt with him. While crying, I looked at myself in the mirror. It bothered me that he called me ugly. I have a face similar to my brother's. I'm neither beautiful nor cute, but I don't think I'm ugly. Maybe I could take better care of myself. I wondered, if I paid more attention to my looks and changed myself, would he see me differently? But even if I dressed up, it's unlikely my brother's personality would change. Marrying a woman with similar attitudes probably only made his narcissism worse. While talking to my coworkers about this, I started to think that my relationship with my brother might be beyond repair. One day, I received a postcard from my brother and his wife saying they had moved. From the address, it looked like a standalone house. What's this all about? They're so reserved. If they had told me, I would have thrown a celebration and even helped them move. I had something I wanted to discuss with them too, so I decided to call them after a long time. "Hello, I got your postcard." I could hear my brother's cheerful voice on the phone. "It's amazing, right? A single-family house at this young age because I'm a fast tracker. It would be impossible if it weren't me, right?" "Yeah, amazing indeed," I replied. He was bragging as usual, but I found it nostalgic and let him talk as much as he wanted. Then I brought up my matter. "I have something to talk to you about too. Just the other day, my company got contracted to clean your office building. We might bump into each other occasionally." "Good for you. You wouldn't get to step foot in such a big building otherwise, right?" He could have just ended there, but he added, "There's one more thing. I got a boyfriend." "What? Seriously?" My brother sounded genuinely surprised. "Yes, he's older and a wonderful man. After what you said, I started taking better care of my skin and such." "He fell for me at first sight," I said jokingly. "Well then, that's thanks to me, huh?" Somehow, he managed to take credit for this as well. "Well, I wouldn't say you haven't played a part in it. I wanted to introduce my boyfriend to you. He's been eager to meet you too, so would it be okay if we visited your place soon? We could also bring a housewarming gift," I mentioned casually. "Ed, you're coming over." His previously cheerful tone suddenly darkened. I wondered what was going on. "You do understand what your job is, don't you?" "Huh? Job, you mean my cleaning job?" Listen, I've got a new house, which means it's clean, right? I don't want a filthy person like a janitor coming in my house. Excuse me. Was he saying that because janitors are considered dirty, he doesn't want one in his brand new house? I was confused and my mind went blank. Considering the dirty work you do, shouldn't you know how to refrain from visiting people's places? I'm sure your coworkers feel the same. You're out of line. That's rude. Apologize, I said, my blood starting to boil in anger. I could feel my fury ready to explode. Was it common courtesy to stay away because my job is dirty? Rude. Apologize. What the hell? I couldn't contain myself and yelled out loud. You've got some nerve to disrespect people like that. This is unacceptable. I could have handled it if it were just about me, but he was mocking my colleagues too. I couldn't let this slide. I could tell my harsh words shocked my brother over the phone. He's usually quick to criticize others, but when someone fights back, he stumbles over his words. Do you really think a person's worth is based on their job? That's just silly. Apologize to me right now. What? Why are you freaking out all of a sudden? He replied. I've had enough of you. How did you become so mean? Mom would be heartbroken. The real mean person is you. Your boyfriend must be worthless if he can't get a better job. If he had any sense, he wouldn't even talk to a cleaning lady. If you weren't my sister, I would never deal with someone dirty like you. If you weren't my brother, I would have left you behind a long time ago, I shot back. I was about to say that I'm cutting ties with you. Never contact me again. Oh, okay. Got it. Goodbye then? We both said things to hurt each other. It was a petty argument, and neither of us was in the mood for a mature conversation. He tried to say something more, but I hung up on him. I was ready to cut ties with my brother. He's the only sibling I have, but I couldn't stand him anymore because he thinks that as a janitor, I don't deserve basic respect. Even though we're siblings, if our values are this different, it's better for us to stay apart from now on. I'll be fine. My brother is already an adult. This is our goodbye. I had come to terms with my feelings. Several months passed since I decided to sever ties with my brother. By some twist of fate, I was assigned to clean the office building where he worked. I think my boss was trying to be thoughtful, but I really didn't want to be there. However, my principle is to do my best at any job I'm given. Suppressing my feelings, I headed to my brother's company. The building was huge and spacious. With such a large space, I should be able to avoid running into my brother. Even if we did meet, he probably wouldn't recognize me. Feeling slightly relieved at that thought, I focused on cleaning, pushing my cart filled with cleaning supplies. It was that afternoon while I was mopping the floor. I noticed a group of about 5 men standing by the vending machine, sipping canned coffee and talking. One of them was saying, I really am sorry for the inconvenience caused. Enough is enough. How many years have you been with us? Consult and report before things get to a point where the whole team has to clean up your mess, another man scolded. Yes, sir. It's happened 3 times just this quarter. I'm sorry, sir. It seemed like the guy who was apologizing had made some mistakes, and they all had to work together to fix them. Good job, guys, I thought to myself as I continued mopping, making sure not to look in their direction. While your peers have already become team leaders, some even managers, you need to step up your game. Another scolding came. I'm sorry, the man replied. Those are some harsh words. I wish they'd let him off the hook soon, I thought. I wanted to mop from there all the way down the hallway on the other side, but they were in the way. After scolding the man once again, they all returned to the office. As the group passed by me, I noticed a familiar face, my brother. The one who had messed up and was being scolded was my brother. I couldn't believe it. My brother also saw me, froze for a minute, then went completely pale. But without saying a word to me, he quickly followed his team and left. During the rest of my shift, my mind kept drifting back to my brother. He was supposed to be the fastest rising among his colleagues, But the brother I saw earlier looked nothing but a burden to the company, a straggler. He seemed like an employee who constantly made mistakes at work and was always apologizing. This intuition came from watching various human interactions in the corporate structure over the years as a janitor. His claim of being a competent individual was just his vanity. He must have been doing well at the beginning, at least. As I suspected, he might have become complacent and been overtaken by his colleagues, tripped up when he least expected it. I think it's bound to happen because of his personality. He looks down on others so easily, but I don't need to worry about him anymore. My brother and I are strangers now. We've cut ties. A few days after realizing the truth, I saw my brother again. I was cleaning the main lobby when he came down the elevator with someone. "Darn, I left the bag with the samples upstairs," he said. I'll go get it. You can wait here, sir." "No need. I'll go. You're useless anyway. But when you get promoted, you take care of me, okay?" "Not again, sir. I told you I'll go get it." The man, who seemed to be his junior, went back on the elevator to retrieve the forgotten item. It was ironic seeing how he treated me in the past, claiming to be competent. From a distance, I watched my brother shrink into a corner of the lobby, feeling pity for him as I cleaned the leaves of the lobby's decorative plants. My senior colleague, who was cleaning with me, quietly came over. "Hey, isn't that your brother?" "Uh-huh. Yes, it seems like he messed up. Let's just leave him be, okay?" My colleague, looking worriedly at my brother, went back to her cleaning duties. Bothered by our sympathetic looks, my brother sprang up and marched over to me. "Hey, janitor, what are you doing?" "I'm cleaning." "No, I mean, why are you here?" "I'm working." At my reply, my brother got visibly angry and raised his voice. "Don't you dare tell my wife that I look pathetic at work. You got that?" His frustrations seemed to be vented on me. The gazes of those around us focused on my loudly ranting brother. Out of concern for the onlookers, I whispered, "You're trying." "Shut up. Don't you, a lowly educated person, order me around. People are watching." "People are watching? Oh dear brother, can you please be quiet?" As I tried to calm him down by holding his hand, he recoiled. You're filthy. Don't touch me." He aggressively wiped the area I had touched and continued his insults. "You're threatening me, aren't you? You want money, right? How much do you want me to cough up?" "Threaten for money? What are you talking about?" I asked, dumbfounded. "I told you not to tell my wife." "Get it, you idiot," my brother snapped. Oh, that's what this is about, I realized. Constant mistakes at work or falling behind in your career, which one do you not want me to mention? "Both, obviously," he replied, clearly scared I might reveal everything to his wife. "Wait, you're even lying to your own wife?" I asked. "Shut up, no garbage like you should speak," he retorted. Garbage, what on earth? He didn't care who was watching, he just kept insulting me. The stress from his job must be overwhelming, and he probably felt better by putting me down. "I'm not some punching bag for you to take your frustrations out on," I told him. Just then, a voice from behind intervened. "That's rude to the cleaning staff." "Shut up! Who are you?" my brother blurted out, finally noticing the tension around him. Unable to tolerate my brother's rudeness any longer, a well-dressed, gray-haired elderly man stepped forward. His high social status was evident. The man stood beside me and gently placed a hand on my back. "Dirty idiot, such intolerable slurs. Apologize to her right now." "Huh, but she's my sister." "We're just having a family squabble," my brother stammered, trying to downplay it. "I thought you said you cut ties with me," I interjected. "Shut up," he snapped back, showing his dual nature humble towards the man but aggressive towards me. The gray-haired man then added, "If it's a family issue, it concerns me as well." "Huh? Pleased to meet you. I'm the gentleman dating your sister," he revealed. My brother was shocked. "I'm the executive vice president of the subsidiary that your company is seconding. I'm also a board member of your company. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to introduce ourselves the other day." What? 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 My brother was panicking, completely out of his depth. Feeling a bit awkward, I gave my boyfriend a side glance. You didn't really have to step in just now, I muttered. If not now, then when? He replied with a warm smile, mimicking a popular TV personality. Hey sis, is that really true? My little brother asked, terrified. Indeed. When we were contracted for cleaning this building, I accompanied our CEO. He who was in charge of the contract was interested in me, I explained. No, that's a lie. It's the truth. During the contract signing, I instantly fell for her who was explaining the details on behalf of a CEO who couldn't do it well, and I asked her out, my boyfriend said. A wave of gasps and murmurs echoed through the lobby. How embarrassing. I heard you said that no decent man would date a cleaning lady, and that he probably doesn't even have a stable job. I didn't say that, my brother responded, but whether he said it or not, he needed to apologize for the insults he threw at me. My brother had no choice but to listen to the stern words from the man, turning pale. You're Margaret's brother, aren't you? You shouldn't worry your sister too much. By then, my senior cleaner had joined us, and colleagues from other floors were gathering too. My brother was completely cornered. Looking defeated, he could barely stand as he bowed his head towards me. I'm sorry, he muttered, his voice weak and filled with despair, lacking any energy or emotion. Later, my brother was transferred to a remote branch of a subsidiary company. Let me make it clear, my boyfriend had nothing to do with my brother's transfer. My brother panicked when his coworkers heard his repeated insults towards me and feared his wife finding out about his problems at work. This led him to make several mistakes. It seems like he's no longer on the fast track to promotion. His wife came to me crying when she learned about his transfer. You're dating an executive from my husband's company, aren't you? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Please bring my husband back to the head office, she begged. Of course, I said no. Her plea fell on deaf ears. Unable to afford their mortgage with his reduced salary after the transfer, it looks like they'll have to sell their newly built home. I have no interest in what happens to my brother and his wife after this. And me? I got married to my boyfriend, and we're living happily in our newly built home. I'm still working as a cleaner, but now less out in the field, because I've become the president of the cleaning company I've always worked for. The president retired, and I was nominated as the successor. I had a lot of doubts about being president, but I decided to give it my all for the company I love. No matter what anyone says, I plan to continue doing the job I love, for the company I love, with my head held high. My in-laws were drunk, but even though people around us were whispering to each other, my in-laws didn't seem to care as they kept yelling at me. Well, I guess it's too late since you're already married, but if you want to be part of this family, you need to show us you have enough money, they said. Yes, your dad is right. So, make sure to give us $1,000 a month as a new bonus, they added. I was stunned by their words. I couldn't believe they would say such things at a wedding reception. I just stared at them, my face going pale. My dad took the microphone from them. Enough is enough. Don't you realize you're making fools of yourselves, he said. My name is Linda. I am a 30-year-old office worker. I am currently dating someone named Larry, who is 32 years old, 2 years older than me. I met him through a friend who was worried about me being single, so she introduced me to Larry. After dating for a year, Larry proposed, and now we are soon to be married. I lost my mother when I was very young, and my father raised me by himself. He worked very hard to take care of all my needs. I didn't have many worries growing up, but losing my mom, who I loved so much, deeply hurt me. Because I lost someone I cared about so much, I was cautious with my emotions. That's why I hadn't really dated anyone since my school days. I even thought it would be okay if I stayed single forever. Then I met Larry. At first, I didn't feel any romantic feelings for him, even though he asked me out many times. Larry really cared about me and was always a gentleman. Slowly, I began to open my heart to him, and we started dating. He kept caring for me, and I felt very happy. He became very special to me, and I started thinking I wanted to be with him forever. Then he proposed, and we decided to get married. Larry understood everything about me and was always kind to me, no matter what. Don't worry, if you're ever feeling unsure about something, I'll be here for you until you feel better. I love you, Linda. You can count on me, he would say. His words moved me. He promised to make me happy for the rest of my life. Just being with him warmed my heart. If he cared that much for me, I thought I should do the same for him. When I told my father that we decided to get married, he was so happy that he cried. Wow, Linda, you're finally getting married. I'm so happy for you, he said. Oh, Dad, you're being dramatic, I joked. Wow, I hadn't heard anything like that from you until now. I was always worried that you might never get married, he replied. Oh, really? I had no idea you were worried about that, I said. Well, every father worries about his daughter, you know. Anyway, congratulations, he said. Thanks, Dad, I replied. I was so happy to be congratulated by my dad, who had raised me by himself. I thought I would probably cry at the wedding, and my dad would probably cry even more since he was already crying now. With that, Larry and I started preparing for our wedding. We were both busy with our jobs, so our days were very hectic. We worked during the weekdays and made wedding preparations over the weekends. There was no time to rest. Our calendars were always full. On the rare day off, we were supposed to visit Larry's parents' house. I was going to meet Larry's parents for the first time. Larry had come over to meet my father right after he proposed to me. Originally, I had planned to visit Larry's parents right after that to introduce myself, but they were very busy and our schedules never matched. Finally, some time passed, and we managed to arrange a visit. As we arrived at his parents' house, I suddenly felt nervous. Don't worry, my parents are very kind, Larry reassured me. His words made me feel a bit better, and I rang the doorbell. It was his mother who opened the door. Mom, I'm home, Larry said. Welcome home, Larry. It's so good of you to come, his mother replied warmly as she talked with her son. I greeted her as politely as I could. Nice to meet you. My name is Linda, and I'm Larry's fiancée. I see, so you're Linda, she said. Her voice was much lower than when she spoke to Larry, and her smile vanished. She looked me up and down as if judging me. Then she led us to the living room, where her cold attitude didn't change. Linda, I'm curious about what you bring to the table. Larry is our treasure and our only child. If you're going to marry him, you need to be a suitable wife. Are you worthy of him? She asked, more like an interrogation. I was taken aback by her question. I hadn't expected such a cold attitude from my future mother-in-law and was at a loss for words. You're going to join our family, you know. Are you ready for that? She continued. True, marrying Larry meant joining his family. But it's not like Larry's family were the Kennedys or some well-known high society family. It's not like I was marrying into a royal family. Why was I being asked to make such a commitment? Besides, I wasn't even going to live with them. I don't like being pressured with questions like these. As I was thinking about how to respond, his mother seemed impatient with my slow reply and scolded me harshly. When I ask you a question, answer me right away. You're so rude, she snapped. I'm asking if you're ready for this, she continued, raising her voice. Despite feeling overwhelmed, I managed to say, I hope that Larry and I will support each other in our marriage. When I said that, his mother was not convinced. What a naive thing to say. You aren't just going to support each other. You are supposed to support Larry. It's your job as a wife to support your husband. You don't even understand the basics, she criticized. Then, Larry's father, who was sitting next to her, intervened. Honey, calm down. Sorry about that, Linda. You must have been startled by my wife's words, he said, trying to ease the tension. It's all right, I replied, trying to remain calm. His mother is very protective of her only son. Maybe she was just nervous and spoke without thinking. Just then, Larry's brother walked in. He spoke in a quiet, calm, and gentle tone. He seemed like a kind man, which gave me a moment of relief. But that relief was short-lived. With a smile on his face, he said the most unexpected thing. What my wife says is actually justified. What concerns me the most is that you come from a single-parent family. What do you mean by that? I asked, confused. Well, being raised by just one parent doesn't have a good public image. We can't be too happy to have such a person become the wife of our only son, can we? He explained. Hold on a minute, I said, unable to let this comment slide. What is wrong with being raised by a single parent? My father worked very hard to raise me by himself. I am very thankful for my upbringing, and I am proud of my father. Being raised by a single parent doesn't make me any less valuable. But they still argued, since you were missing one parent, you couldn't have learned how to be a good wife, do housework, and such. I responded, I did a lot of housework to help my father. I can also cook pretty well, so please don't say that. Despite my response, Larry's words ignored what I said, and he finally stated, I will allow you to marry Larry, but in exchange, you must promise to devote everything to us because we are Larry's parents. Can you promise me that? What? I was shocked. Wow, since you came here to ask for our permission to marry our son, you do know what your duties are, don't you? Before I could say more, he continued the conversation. I found that my in-laws had completely taken over the conversation, giving me little chance to respond. That night, as I thought more about the marriage, I decided to share my feelings with Larry. Say, Larry, do your parents always talk to people like that? What about it? Larry seemed unfazed. I was surprised that Larry didn't see anything wrong with what his parents had said to me. Well, I mean, the way your parents spoke to me and what they said. Oh, really? Well, they were just talking about whether you were ready for this marriage. I get that your parents are worried about their son's marriage, but I feel like what your parents were saying was a bit too much. Really? Why is that? My parents didn't say anything wrong. Besides, they've given us permission to get married, so don't worry about it. That's true, but I felt uneasy that Larry seemed to side with his parents more than with me, and that was very troubling. I guess he realized I was feeling unsure because he gave me a hug. Linda, you don't have to worry so much. My parents are just a bit upset because their only son is getting married, he said. He spoke as if he didn't fully support me. It's all going to be fine. Don't overthink it. I'm sure they just want what's best for us. They want us to be as good of a couple as they are. That's why they were a bit harsh. Oh, really? I replied. Like he said, maybe his parents have high expectations for us. But even if that's the case, I don't think it's right for them to belittle me because I was raised by my father. I don't think people who say such things make a good couple. We are the ones getting married, and we should be the focus, not their approval or disapproval. With that perspective, although I was still a bit upset, I decided not to dwell too much on his parents' opinions. Then the day of the wedding arrived. We had many guests, including our relatives, friends, colleagues, and bosses. I walked down the aisle with my father, who had raised me all my life. Larry and I exchanged our vows and rings. We were met with applause, and for the first time, I truly realized that I was getting married to Larry. I felt a happiness I had never felt before as we walked into the reception hall. We made our way through the crowd, greeted by videos of us as part of the entertainment. It was a joyful time. I chatted with friends I hadn't seen in a while, and many people congratulated us. Despite my earlier worries about his parents, I was glad I had decided to marry Larry. I was glad we decided to have a memorable day. After the ceremony, we planned to officially register our marriage and Frank, and I would become husband and wife. I cherished every moment and felt so happy. Time flew by, and soon it was time for the final part of the event. The bride, groom, and both sets of parents lined up to greet the guests. But I started to feel uneasy because of Frank's parents. We were all supposed to be standing in line, but his parents were wobbly on their feet. If you looked closely, you could see that their faces were bright red. They had drunk too much. Some relatives asked if they were okay. My in-laws were clearly drunk, but we had to wrap up the ceremony and get it over with. The moderator handed the microphone to me and Larry. Suddenly, Larry's mother snatched my hand away from him and yelled at me like a professional wrestler in the middle of a challenge. "Listen to me, Linda. After this wedding, you are going to devote yourself to us completely. Prepare yourself because we are going to test you really hard." The guests started whispering to each other, and some even thought it was a joke and laughed. Then Larry's father grabbed the microphone. "Linda, don't you feel embarrassed to wear a dress like that? It doesn't suit you at all." "Dear, you should tell her the truth," his mother chimed in. As expected, the whispers among the guests changed in tone. I looked at Larry, hoping he would stop his father's rude comments. But Larry said he couldn't do that and that his parents weren't doing anything wrong. It became clear he would never protect me from his parents in the future. That was the moment I realized it. I was certain of it, even as the hall buzzed around us. My in-laws were drunk and continued to insult me. "Well, you're already married, but if you're going to be part of this family, you need to prove that you have enough money," they said. "Yes, that's right," they continued. "After you register your marriage at the city hall, you should give us a few $1,000s a month and your entire bonus." I was shocked by their words. I never thought they would say such things at our wedding reception. I just stared at them, feeling my face go pale. My father took the microphone from them. "Enough of this. Don't you realize you're making fools of yourselves?" he said, though still showing some respect. His parents glared at my father. "Why are you interrupting us while we're talking?" I knew this woman's father was no good. "Single parents are never any good," they said. "Why do they talk like this? How dare they insult my father?" I thought. My father, keeping his cool, replied, "You people are even worse than I imagined. You even refuse to meet me because I am a single father. I never thought that someone like you would work for President Scott. President Scott is such a respectable person. I assumed his employees would be decent as well," my father continued. At that, my father-in-law's face turned very serious. "How do you know President Scott?" "He's a business partner of my company and, more importantly, an old friend of mine," my father explained. And speaking of single parents, President Scott was raised by his mother alone. "So you just insulted the president of the company you work for." Seeing my in-laws' faces fall at my father's words, I realized they finally understood the mess they had gotten themselves into. "I apologize, sir. Please don't tell the president about this," my in-law pleaded, suddenly falling to his knees. Just moments before, he had acted like he was in charge, but now he looked defeated, and I could hear laughter from the guests. Some even pulled out their cell phones to record the scene. "No matter how much you apologize, you can't take back your words," my dad said. He walked over to me and asked if I wanted to go home with him. I said yes and took the microphone from Larry's hand. "Thank you for the great entertainment, but there will be no marriage," I announced to Larry and his parents. "And to everyone who attended, I will make sure to return the money you gave us for this occasion." Then I left the reception hall with my dad. I caught a glimpse of Larry and his parents looking dismayed, and soon after, his relatives rushed over with worried expressions on their faces. The place must have been in complete chaos. As I returned their money, I apologized to the guests. They all expressed sympathy for me and praised me and my dad for our actions, saying it was good that we weren't taken advantage of by such terrible people. Later, Larry's coworkers who had attended the reception must have spread the word about what happened at his company. Larry became known for having such unreasonable parents and was criticized for having a weak character. His embarrassment was so great that he resigned voluntarily. And of course, the president of my father-in-law's company found out about the incident. Larry's father was demoted and sent to an insignificant division of the company, transferred to a remote office in the countryside. I heard that Larry's family has been ostracized by all his relatives because of what happened at the wedding. While it's unfortunate, it really was their own doing, and sometimes things like that just can't be avoided. In the meantime, I've been using this opportunity to strengthen my relationship with my dad. We've been spending more quality time together, and it's helped me appreciate all he's done for me even more. One day, he sat me down for a serious talk. "Linda, are you interested in running the business?" he asked, looking at me with a mixture of hope and seriousness. "Do you mean?" I started, a bit unsure where he was heading with this. "Why don't you work towards becoming the president of my company?" he suggested. It was a big step, and he seemed to believe I was ready to take it on. "I'll do my best," I promised him, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I decided then to focus on stepping up my game at work rather than getting entangled in romantic relationships for now. I wanted to prove to myself and to my dad that I could excel and perhaps one day be a great leader like him. Currently, I am deeply involved in learning everything I can at my dad's company. The work is challenging but fulfilling, and I'm determined to make the most of this opportunity. Reflecting on the wedding fiasco, it's clear that Larry's in-laws were quite unreasonable, turning what should have been a beautiful event into a spectacle. Thankfully, since the marriage wasn't officially registered, Linda myself in this scenario was spared from a legally binding mistake. Now, free from any marital ties, and with no looming in-law issues, I can focus solely on my career aspirations. It's a relief to know that out of a chaotic situation came a clear path forward for me. I look forward to what the future holds and am excited about the potential of leading the company. I wish myself all the best and hope that anyone watching this story can take something valuable from it. Thank you for staying till the end. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this story, and I hope to see you in the next video.